Welcome to the Miracle You, guiding you on the journey towards finding passion and purpose, and how to discover, create, and live a life by your design. Whether your success has been plentiful or your missed opportunities have been overwhelming, we can help you become a more empowered, masterful person and show you how to share your gift with the world. It's time to inspire change from within with the host of the Miracle You, Vince Kramer.
Hello, imagination. I'm Vince Kramer, your host, and welcome to the Miracle You, where you learn about the magic of living your life by finding the example in real life.
If you're familiar with the Miracle You podcast, you know that we talk a lot about understanding where your answers come from, being able to tap into the Trinity of You. One part of the Trinity of You is that the higher self, that part of you that is connected to the all-knowingness, the non-physical part of you that has all your answers, is creating the circumstances out there in front of you to help you develop your gifts and talents in a way that you can bring yourself fully to the world, live your why, live your divine intent, and help people do the exact same thing. Part of being able to get our answers, to be able to understand the direction that is out there in front of us, the guidance that is available to us, is to truly be able to listen and hear that guidance as it presents itself. And then once you get that guidance, you can use the guidance along with your thoughts and feelings to create what it is that you align with, what it is that you want in your life, and truly make things happen for yourself. And in making things happen for yourself, living that divine intent, now you open the door to be the example for others to do the same, and also be an energetic support system for them to do that. Today, we're going to talk about a variation of that. We're going to talk about another method that's out there that uses the same energetic understanding, the same understanding of science to help you create what you want in your life and to live that life fully. I'm with Gunther Mueller today, and Gunther is the optimal health strategist and has spent the better part of the last decade working closely with over 300 medical professionals in a variety of specialties, assisting them in bringing life-changing therapies to their patients that help them feel young, healthy, and vibrant again. Gunther is extremely excited to share the revolutionary magnetic mind method that is taking the personal development movement by storm so that his clients can learn how to turn thoughts into things and become conscious creators so they also can live a life that they absolutely love. Gunther Mueller, are you ready to share the miracle of you with the imagination?
I certainly am, Vince, and thank you so much for inviting me as a guest on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Oh, you bet. Thank you for being here. In the Imagine Miracles world, where I love bringing science and spirituality together. So we're going to get to talk some science today, which I really enjoy. So I can't wait till we delve into some of the specifics of the magnetic mind method. But before we do that, could you share a little bit more about you and what you're doing in the world? And let's go right to before you finish that part of the conversation, what difference do you want to make in the world?
Well, I answer that first. My mission is to have an impact on at least 10 million people on this planet so that they get inspired to take action to actually change their destiny, whether that be in health or in manifesting a life that they truly love. You know, I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years now, been in many different industries, from solar to coffee to food distribution. I've owned restaurants. I've done a bunch of different things. And I feel like I'm in this unique position where I can take very complex subjects and bring them to, let's say, the layperson so that they can actually apply this knowledge, right? So the quantum physical space is a very complex place. And you can read all kinds of books on it. And I want everybody to know, look, what I'm sharing with you today is not my opinion. This stands on the shoulders of giants. So if you want to read the technicals, authors like Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, all those guys have videos. And if you want to get into the science of stuff, please do. Lynn McTaggart wrote the book, The Field. There is so much science out there supporting what I'm going to share with you today. All that we did in the magnetic mind method is make it practical. So when I look at my life and where I came from and the impact that I want to have, why have so many people been through the personal development movement? And I do some great coaching with some of the great names out there already. And when I found the magnetic mind method, I was just like, holy crap, this is the real practical 5 steps. That is manifestation, that is creation. And I mean, great minds have been trying to do this since the beginning of time, from trying to turn lead into gold. And I'm just here saying, look, how do we get the results that we want in our life? How do we get what we want finally, after maybe been through a bunch of seminars and retreats and courses and read all the books, and was like, how do I actually do this? So that's my inspiration through all of my business. And believe me, I've failed more than I have succeeded. Anybody tells you any different, they're lying, okay? Because the road to success is laced with failure and pain and some suffering along the way. And as an entrepreneur, you just kind of figure that out. That's your path, and you learn from your mistakes, and you try to elevate to a new level. And then you get to this place in life where you're just dying to share it with other people because you think you got it figured out.
I don't know if we ever get it completely figured out, because it moves and changes and expands and grows. And it's interesting, you mentioned a lot of names that are my personal mentors, as well as some of the most forward thinking and out on the edge people that there are in a lot of cases. And the imagination's very familiar with them. But the interesting thing for me is, we can look at quantum physics from the practical standpoint, or you can stand in front of the board and use the chalk and put the formulas up there. And the same thing goes with our bodies and how our bodies help us in that creation process. So, I'd really like to talk things like neuroplasticity with you, talk about neural networks, and really delve into epigenetics, if you don't mind. So could you start off by what got you interested in this? Was there a wake-up call that got you to step into the personal growth world, and how did that show up in your life?
Well, looking back on my life, I've always been maybe what you want to call a truth seeker, all right, or trying to figure out how it is here. And probably have had to reinvent myself at least 5 or 6 times. I kind of lose track sometimes of the actual reinventions, but they all came from a manifestation of the identity not being aligned with my true choice, is what I have found out, right? And the most catastrophic event was the most recent one. It was about the end of 2017. And I had built about a $20 million a year business in about 3 years. And I was clicking along in the optimal aging space, with hormones and medical clinics and things like that. And I got a 90-second phone call. I was making close to, 7 figures a year, and everything was great. Had built the thing. I was loving life, everything. I created just a beautiful, thing. But the part of my nature or my identity was that I couldn't hold on to things. Like, I would create amazing things, but they couldn't stay in place, and I couldn't just coast. I couldn't just enjoy, let's call it, the fruits of my labor. So I received a 90-second phone call and basically vaporized everything that I had built on that phone call. It was a contractual issue, is the way it manifested. And I was told that my services were no longer needed, and that was it. It was over, done. And you can imagine a cold sweat, came over my body, and just could not believe what I was hearing, and had never thought that was possible, but there it was. And so that was a manifestation. It took about 2-3 years after that to really explore and look into, I'm just tired of that happening. I am just done with that. Not that I don't enjoy the process of building and creating, but I do want the experience of sustaining and enjoying what I have built and not always have to go back to the drawing board and recreate something again. So after those years, that's where I really came across this solution called the magnetic mind method that I just love sharing it with people because it is such a practical way to what I want to call recode the underlying subconscious identity. And it's not that we're broken or that there's anything to fix. It's just that things that have happened to us in the past, decisions that we've made, no longer serve the main personality that we are. All right. It's just, we want to create something new. We want to create something different. It's just who we are. And that subconscious program that we have is just not serving us. And we need to get an update kind of downloaded into that subconscious programming. And the way the personal development movement has done it for so long is really coming from the conscious mind. And that sounds like positive mental attitude. It sounds like affirmations and sounds like work, sounds like willpower and motivation and really straightening out the thoughts. And it's not that that doesn't work. It does work. It's, to me today, just a long, slow road of doing things. I prefer now to come from the super conscious realm and rewrite that code much more effortlessly and dynamically just by choosing a desired reality that I truly would just love to experience. And so that's been the transformation. That one thing drove me into, let's call it, finally figuring this thing out.
And what most people don't understand is that it's not a problem of creating. We're really great at creating. We create all the time. And that creation can even show up in the things we want that you said. But it's one, holding the vibration to hold on to what you've got. And two, realizing that you have to have a vibration to actually create what you do want. Mm-hmm. So I'm very interested to hear, there's a couple things that I'd kind of like you to define for us. First, could you define for us what it means that you're not really broken?
Yeah, so if you look at the personal development movement at large right now, you're always going back to kind of fix something in your personality, let's say, or in your makeup. And you can't have what you want until you fix that one aspect of yourself or discover something, the thing that is defunct in your being, right? That's been the nature of the personal development movement, where you're going through some course, some retreat, some book, some way that you have to uncover a way in which you're being that's not producing the result that you want. And so it's a continuous process of having to go back and fix something necessarily to get what you want. And what I'm here to say is that, look, you're not broken. There's nothing to fix. We need to step out of the problem-solving reality, meaning trying to figure out how to get what we want, and go into the creator stance, which is really focusing on what it is we just want. What do we truly love? What would we love to experience? What do we really want? And allow, let's say, the quantum physical universe to manifest the results, the context, the circumstances, the people, the conditions that allow that thing to exist.
Before you're giving me all these great things to talk about, but before I delve into that, could you define the superconscious?
So I use that word just to describe that highest version of ourselves, that aspect of our being that is infinitely connected to all that is. So all knowledge, all source, and it depends on the tradition that you're from or the language that you use. We have 3 layers of consciousness, which is why I call that highest level super conscious. We have the subconscious and we have the conscious awareness that we are. So it's really 3 layers of mind from the science and from all the greats that have definitely come before me and my understanding. that this thing that knows everything, has been part of everything, doesn't need to be told anything about what has happened or what is, it just knows everything, would be that super conscious aspect of ourselves.
Excellent. So for the imagination, that would be the big YOU and the Trinity of You that we talk about all the time. Share with me, Gunther, how you figure out what you really want.
That's a great question. So to me, in my live stream, there's always been two of the most important questions. Number one, we have to determine, who am I in the context of everything? Like, how do you actually answer that question of who am I, right? When you look out at the stars and you look out at our three-dimensional existence and where we are, is like, how do you answer that question of who am I? And the way I answer it for myself these days is that, I am a specific individuation of all that there is. It's like taking a drop of ocean water out of the ocean. It does not cease having the essence of the ocean, but it is not the ocean in its, let's say, its expansiveness and all that the ocean is, but it has the nature and the essence of the ocean. So that you're an aspect of that, right? You're an individuation of that whole thing. And so I'm cool with that. Like, my being has rested in that definition and I'm fine with that. And it serves my needs. Other people may need more complex definitions than that. And so who am I? That's who I am. And then the next question is, what do I want? And unfortunately, in our culture today, I mean, when I was growing up as a young kid, and I'm sure you remember this, there were 3 television stations, and you had to get up off the couch to change the channel. Today, we have thousands and thousands of frequencies or inputs that are coming into our reality. And I'm afraid that many people don't know what noise to listen to. And they have not spent an ample amount of time listening to that superconscious voice. And I guess speaking more than they listen. And the way that we really need to determine what we would truly love is to contemplate it. And the idea, which is, step 1 in the magnetic mind method, is to select a true choice. And the way, as a coach or as a mentor to people, the way I find out whether you truly are on a true choice is if I ask you, why do you want that? You will tell me, I want it just because I want it. I want it just because I would love to experience that for no other reason. It's not a stepping stone onto something else. Because in the entrepreneurial world, I got a lot of entrepreneurs that come to me and say, look, Gunther, I want, my true choice is to have a successful business, whatever that might be. And I ask them, well, why do you want the business? I say, well, because when I have the business, I'm sick and tired of working for my boss. I want financial freedom. I want time freedom. I want the experience of abundance. So therefore I need to create a successful business of my own. So I have to put the brakes on, say, time out. You may be creating complete struggle for yourself. If you don't begin with the end in mind properly, you may be creating literally the experience of a disaster for yourself and creating pain and suffering and all these things, because the business is maybe not the true choice. The true choice is really the experience of abundance. It is the experience of having more than enough. It is that complete freedom, the experience. And so the universe, the quantum physical reality, could deliver that experience to you in literally a million different ways. I mean, the most outlandish way may be finding a suitcase full of money on the street or something like that. That'd be more than enough than you could spend in a lifetime. Probably not likely, but it is possible. And so that is really how you come to a true choice. It cannot be a choice made through the process of elimination. It cannot be a choice made through, let's say, consensus. I choose this thing and I'm choosing the thing because all my friends, family, and relatives are going to agree with me. Like, they will give me permission to choose that, or they're going to accept my choice. We can't do it by default. We cannot choose by not making a choice, because not choosing is choosing. Okay. So we have to spend some contemplative time really getting into the idea, and we've not been taught this in school. There's no real aspect of our culture that supports this, which is why it's different, in that we are not choosing from a problem-solving perspective. Meaning a lot of our choices are, well, I need step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. So I'm going to choose this, I'm going to choose that, I'm going to choose the next thing, I'm going to choose that. So those could feel like choices, like I'm choosing these things. But what we're not conscious of is that we're still in the problem-solving paradigm. When we back out of the problem-solving paradigm and we truly take the creator stance, we ask the question, what would I love to create for the pure pleasure of creating? What would I just love to experience for no other reason than I would just love to experience that, no matter what it is? And it's not contingent on any permission, approval, consensus, nothing. It is just purely you're in that place, and it's not a stepping stone unto anything else. The end result is purely the end result that you would just love to experience more than anything else in the current moment.
So when you step into that new paradigm, we also need to step into a new paradigm of understanding of how to create. We've stepped into this paradigm now of true choice, and we've picked our true choice, but there's still some things that are programmed into us, into our brains, into our world, into the old paradigm that we've lived. Now talk to us about recoding.
So what's going to come up, what you're referring to, is the thing I'll call as resistance. There is something in our experience that is preventing us from, let's call it, magnetically moving towards that true choice. So it is a feeling of resistance. There's something in the way, because there's 3 places that we can be or that we find ourselves. And the first place is completely stuck. Like nothing moves, nothing changes, we're just stuck. The second place is we're oscillating, meaning that feels like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, half step back. And we're just we create stuff, like you said earlier, no problem in creating stuff, but then it kind of slips through our fingertips and it just kind of melts away and we have to create it again. So the feeling of oscillating back and forth. The third place we can be, and where I love to be, is in this place called flow, where we're turning thoughts into things. Athletes describe it as the zone, right? This flow state where what you're thinking, what you're imagining, what you are crafting in your mind just seems to show up. And we've all experienced it before. We've all had a taste of what that feels like. So how do we get into that state? The thing that we have to look at is that our identity that we've created over a lifetime is congruent to the current experience, to the current reality. It is that identity that creates, I want to call it, the holographic movie that we experience right now. That we are creating, like you said, we're great at creating. We already are super conscious creators. We just don't know it, or we don't remember it. And we're not careful in this choosing. So therefore, we many times create things that we don't necessarily love or that we necessarily want, because we did not have that consciousness. We did not spend any time really crafting that true choice. And I'd like to just give the audience a little taste of what some of these true choices sound like,
Okay.
in the magnetic mind method, because they're important. So the 4 core creator stances that you can choose before you, let's say, craft your own is: I choose to live my true nature and purpose. I just choose it. I choose to live my true nature and purpose. I choose to be the predominant creative force in my life. It doesn't mean I'm the only creative force in my life, but I choose to be the predominant creative force in my life. I choose to live the life that I love in all aspects, complete. I just choose it. And I choose to be healthy and vital. You know, in the health space that I've spent over a decade in, there are many illnesses or diseases, let's call them, that create pain and suffering in our body. And a lot of times our conscious choice is to, let's say, beat cancer or heal diabetes or cure heart disease or whatever it might be. And if we focus on the problem, guess what grows? The thing that you're focused on. Versus if we step out of the problem solving paradigm or state and we come into the creator stance, that I choose to be infinitely healthy and vital. And if you hold that and recode the resistance away from that true choice being a reality in your active experience, then guess what? That starts showing up. And you don't need to know how, let's call it the negative, unwanted health condition will resolve itself. You just need to focus on the what you want, which is optimal health and vitality in all of its fullness and all of its radiance and all of its awesomeness, and focus on that. And our biology, our physicality, the current reality experience will move into that manifestation. And a lot of people ask immediately, well, how long does that take? And I'm going to suggest that it will happen as soon as possible. It's just as soon as possible, because superconscious and the reality that we live in, it may need some time to manifest the conditions and the circumstances and everything else that needs to happen. It's a very complex thing that we don't need to contemplate the details about. We just need to do our part in focusing on that which we want in all of its clarity, all of its detail, all of the desire that goes along with it.
So we're in that mode of focus. And as human beings, we have the tendency to, well, Gunther, as soon as possible, doesn't mean that it's going to happen when I want it to. So now the next thing that happens is we move from that place of focusing on what we want to noticing that we're not getting what we want. What would you tell, or how do you help people move beyond that phase?
That's a great point, because it's real and it happens. It comes up from the egoic mind. And we all have some self-sabotaging identities that like to say things like, Vince, I told you this wasn't going to work. We tried this before. We've been here before and it didn't work. It's just easier to stay where we are and, stay safe, play small. Let's not get our hopes up, for things to change. And this is the self-talk that happens very naturally in our mind. So one of the strategies that I would share with people is we need to come to a place of contentment with whatever is, and stop labeling the current reality or the current experience as not good enough or not what I want or bad, some negative connotation to the current reality. And the opposite of that is saying that the future is going to be better than the present, that my desired reality, my true choice, what I really want is just going to be better than the way it is now. When we put that kind of context on something, we actually are anchoring ourselves to the current condition. If we just shift one word and we say, look, the future is just going to be a different experience. It's not going to be a better experience. It's going to be a different experience. And the current reality, the way it is now, is just what is. And if the current reality just continued to be what is now, you've survived it so far, you've managed yourself through it so far, so good right now, that you could continue to do so and life would be okay. You could make it through. And so if we can just hold that from the 30, 40,000 foot level, let's say, in an observer stance and say the current reality is just what is, and it's okay. And from this place of power, from this position of power, I choose something different. I choose a different experience now. And I'm going to bring that into my active experience. That's what's going to come in. We take the energy out of the current reality having to stay the same and recreating the same thing. And we actually allow the identity some flexibility to shift and to move. So the second step of the 5-step process is to create this structural tension between what I want and the way it is now. What I want and the way it is now, with not the judgment that what I want is better than the way it is now. What I want is just going to be a different experience, and we create a structural tension in the mind because the mind likes to resolve, needs to resolve tension. It needs to find a way to resolve any tension. So we give it a tension to resolve by just positioning, this is what I want, this is the way it is now. This is what I want, this is the way it is now. Make sense?
Yes, it certainly does.
All right.
As people move into that place and they get through these first 2 steps, move through the next 3 steps of the process, what kind of results, what kind of changes in people's lives or transformations in their lives do they see? Maybe you could use yourself as an example, or maybe one of your clients.
I use one of my clients that I think was just a really interesting thing, and also the timeliness of how the thing changed. I had a client that came to me that had a roof that needed repair. Okay. And she had determined that there was only one contractor to do the work in a trustworthy manner, good quality workmanship and all that stuff. And she had it so set in her mind that there was only this one option. And for whatever reason, the option wasn't working. The guy wasn't showing up. There was some issue around money. There was an issue around his dog or whatever it was. These details we don't really need to know, right? But there was some resistance present to getting the roof fixed now. Why? Because it rains and the thing's going to leak, right? So there's this tension that needs to be resolved, which is I need to get my roof fixed. And so we did a recode. We just got into the third step is the emotion of the end result. What would it feel like to have a roof that was completely and effortlessly, professionally, and quickly repaired in the perfect way? Just think of the possibility right now. What would it feel like right now to have a perfectly repaired roof? And it's done by someone that you don't even know right now. It's just a proficient, a trustworthy contractor that's honest and the whole 9 yards. Is going to be just a wonderful repair, and it's going to happen in just an effort. What would that feel like? And so you get into the emotion of the end result of that which you would truly love right now, which is to have the roof repaired. And then to create the structural tension, you tell me, okay, what's it like now? Well, right now I'm nervous. I'm uncertain as to whether my house is going to flood or not. When the next rainstorm's coming, right, is this completely uncomfortable reality. And when we did the recode and we allowed the possibility to exist of the repair happening in a completely different way that we're unaware of, and completely detached from having to solve the problem, but stepping into the creator stance and asking superconscious to melt away the resistance to just having the end result, which is having a perfectly repaired roof at a fair price, meaning not getting ripped off or anything like that in the process. It's just effortless. Within a couple days, a completely different situation showed up for this client, in which the roof was almost instantaneously repaired by someone that she had known a long time ago, but was out of the field of possibility, came into the field of possibility. Matter of fact, she did not even have to call this person. That person called her, asking if there was anything that he could do to help her out. right? So that was within 72 hours of doing a recode that a completely different set of possibilities just showed up, and all she had to do, there was an obvious action. So the recode is step 4, where we just melt away the resistance, but step 5 is to take obvious action. So at the end of the recode, I ask my clients, and like, so what's the next obvious action you need to take right now that super conscious is bringing into your active experience? Seeing it's just, well, I need to go bring a check to that guy. I need to bring a check to the guy that wasn't doing the work. I guess she owed him some money. There was a little dispute or something like that, or whatever. And the next day she went and took that obvious action and gave him the check and totally disregarded the dog. The dog was not even a factor or an issue, and just walked up to the front door, rang the bell, said, "Here's your check," turned around and left. Simple, obvious action, right? It was
Yes.
within then the next 24 to 48 hours that a completely different set of options and solutions showed up. The work got done. Boom. I got an email, a couple days later being like, "Gunther, you're not going to believe what just happened."
No, Gunther, I could talk about this forever, and I know you got so much to share, but we're coming into the end of our time. I was wondering, could you give a parting piece of guidance to the audience that would help them on this journey?
Yeah. The parting piece of guidance is to pay attention to your desire. I like to say sometimes, what if our desires was God's plan for our life? And a lot of times we don't believe that the desire is possible, or that it's possible for us, or that we have permission to pursue that desire. There is something in that program. And so you can go the long, slow way and do it the way we've done it over many decades of time now and try to recode that. Or, as everything in our experience happens, things evolve. There is something new, a new way to approach, finally getting what we want, the end result. And it is time for us to awaken to that part of ourselves and to really know that we have this power. This power is in our choice, in our true desire. And so as desires come up, or as visions come up, or as we get connected to this higher aspect of ourselves, that we don't suppress it, ignore it, disregard it, that we actually give it the attention that it deserves, and take some time to contemplate it, be in it. It may be uncomfortable. It may be hard. It's okay. Let it be hard. Let it be uncomfortable. Let it be a different experience, and just do it anyway. Okay? Just get into that space in reclaiming this creative power, this manifesting power that we really do have, and maybe take an obvious action to experience the magnetic mind method for yourself and see what it might have in store for you.
Excellent. Could you tell us how to get in touch with you, learn more about Dream Life Masters, more about the magnetic mind method?
Yeah, absolutely. It is dreamlifemasters.com. If this conversation has resonated with you, and there I've some free resources on there that you can take advantage of. Also a webinar link that if you want to know more of the science and have more time, I do a regular webinar on there that you can come in and learn more about the quantum physics of stuff. And then for anybody that really wants to experience one of these recode sessions, I'm doing that for podcast listeners only. I usually charge $397 for an hour and a half of doing the 5 steps and getting into the recode. For your listeners, I'd be happy to do it for $109. And that is the full session, not taking any shortcuts or anything like that. You go to questforthequan.com for that. questforthequan.com, Quest for the Quan. And you can get a recode session to really experience this for yourself, have that one-on-one session where I can guide you through the true choice, the emotion and result, the recode, the obvious action, all that stuff. And most people that do that have a very, I want to call it, shifting experience, like shift happens.
Awesome. Awesome. And that's so generous, Gunther. Thank you so much for offering that to the audience. I'm sure the imagination will take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And also, thank you for what you're doing in the world and bringing this message and helping people understand that there's so much more for us. It's truly our birthright, and we have such a powerful part of us that's willing and ready to help. We just, as you said so perfectly earlier, you just need to listen. So we appreciate that very much.
Yeah, there is an awakening happening, and the more people that can be part of it, the better our collective reality will be.
For sure. And all that information will be available on Gunther's show page. Just go to themiracleu.com, look for Gunther's episode, and all that information on how to get in touch with him. Get one of those recoding sessions with him. It'll all be there. So make sure you take advantage of this wonderful offer.
All right.
Gunther, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate you and what you're doing in the world.
All right, Vince, thank you so much.
You're welcome. On behalf of Mary, my wife and business partner, the entire team at Imagine Miracles, we want to wish you a miracle day.
You've completed this episode of The Miracle You, but we have plenty more to help you discover your own personal passion and purpose. Head over to themiracleu.com for free resources to assist you on your journey, as well as register for our free webinar, Discover Your Miracle Life, 3 Mind Awakening Steps Toward Your Unique Purpose, or apply for a one-on-one Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session and discover your next best step on your journey. All available exclusively on our website. That's themiracleu.com. We look forward to sharing more experiences of passion, purpose, and life by design next time, right here on The Miracle You.